All right, all right. What is up, backyard gardeners? I am pumped because it is seed starting time. I love this time of year between February and March where we start our seeds indoors to have an awesome springtime garden. So I'm going to walk you through step by step what I do to get prepared for that moment. And we're going to start our seeds indoors and I'm going to show you the basics, what really works for me. And I had so much success throughout the year. So let's go ahead, let's jump into it. All right, let's talk about our trays. These are our seed starting trays. You have two standard sizes that are used widely throughout a lot of different gardens. You have a 10 by 10 size here, or the larger one, the 10 by 20. Now, depending on what you're growing is what tray you'll use. Now, for example, if I'm growing broccoli plants, I'm not going to grow this one, which holds up to 50 plants, because that's too much to feed my family. This one here holds 16 plants. So this is something I would use for, like, say, my broccoli plants. Now, if I was going to be growing zinnia flowers, I'll grow like 100, 150. So I'll fill up 2 or 3 trays of these with zinnias. So it works out perfect. For indoor growing, this works perfect because you have two parts. You have a bottom tray with no holes, then your insert top tray has basically all your drain holes for when you water your plants, it'll drain into your bottom tray here. It'll catch it. So this works out really good when you're growing things indoors. You could also be a little creative. So check this one out. This container had scalloped potatoes in it. And also this is a yogurt container where I drilled some holes in the bottom and I started some beautiful spinach plants in them. They're actually looking really nice. And I'd rather brag about the spinach plants, how beautiful they are versus bragging about what trays are growing in. So let's talk about the soil. This part is actually pretty important because you want to make sure you use the right soil when you're doing things indoors. When you're growing seeds, you're planting seeds, you're growing your plants indoors. You can't use an outdoor garden mix. I mean, you can, but it's really not the right thing to do because when you're growing indoors, you're growing under perfect conditions. You have very controlled environment. There's no wind, there's no humidity. It's very dry, and you're using grow lights. Now, when you're outdoors, you have the wind, you have the rain, you have the humidity, which the plants really like, and then you have the sun just feeding the plants through the leaves through photosynthesis. So therefore you have to make sure you adapt to what you're doing. And since you're growing indoors, you want to use something that's very light, something that's very fluffy, because you're growing a plant that needs a little bit more tender care because it's indoor under different conditions. Um, so basically what I'm trying to say is you want to grow something in like a seed starting mix. So this seed starting mix, it's not dirt and it's not little pieces of wood or organic material. I mean, it is organic material, but it's coco coir, it's peat moss, and has a little vermiculite in there. That's for basically for to retain a little water. So basically that's all the stuff you need to actually germinate a seed. That's your whole goal when you're putting the seeds in these trays is to germinate it. Once it's germinated and you're starting to see the plant grow and it's starting to get a set of true leaves, which is the second set of leaves, that's when you want to introduce some kind of like fertilizer to it. And eventually, after a couple of weeks, you plant, say you're growing like a tomato or something like that, you might want to throw it into a bigger pot like this. So it's called up potting. So basically, when I'm going to take it out of this little 2-inch pot and put it into a 4-inch pot, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce some nice garden soil at that point. That's when I'll do like a clean garden soil. Like I'll buy like a bag of like Happy Frog or something like that, and I'll mix it in there, and then I'll give it some fertilizer. And that's when you're going to up pot it before it goes outside. So that's basically what's really important with the soil is you just want to make sure you pick the right one. Like I said, just for this video, I just used the Jiffy because it's something you can pick up at Lowe's or Home Depot. It's not the only one. You could use a whole different, there's all different kinds of, seed starting mixes. So you kind of pick what you like, do a little research. But my point is just make sure you don't use like a garden soil from outside. I mean, not saying it won't grow, but you might later on add some issues to your plant and stress your plant out, or even add a disease to it. They look good, and the next thing you know, they're dead. So you want to just take precaution, use something that's proper for indoor growing, and then you'll have success. So, All right, so basically this is what I use, and I add a little water to it, and we'll go to the next spot. All right, so basically I'm just gonna fill up the trays with potting soil. What I did is I ran the potting soil under the water a little bit, so I hydrated it, just at the kitchen sink. You want to make sure you don't make it too sopping wet. You just want it to be pretty damp. So basically, I have the 16 cell tray, I have the 8 cell tray, and I also have a little special tray here. This is something I had from tacos. I got Taco Tuesday. It says dad on there because I'm the one that gets jalapenos and nobody wants the jalapenos. But anyway, these are the yogurt containers again, and I'm gonna fill these up. And why not? I there's no reason to throw them out, and I just took this Noosa yogurt container, drill some holes in it, and we're gonna fill it up. And I'll show you. You could grow seeds just like I showed you earlier with the spinach seeds. So there's no reason why you can't grow your own plants. You just got to be a little creative and use what you have. All right, this is one of my favorite parts. We're going to plant some seeds. So we're going to start off, we have some broccoli. I also have some bronze minuet, lettuce, and then also some Blue Ridge kale. So all three of these are planted at different depths, believe it or not. So you want to read the back of the package, and it's suggested this one is a 1/4 inch deep. So that's for the Blue Ridge kale. And then the lettuce is suggested at an 1/8 inch deep. And that's just because lettuce seeds are so tiny. They're actually kind of hard to handle. And the broccoli, they're a little bit bigger seed, they're easier to handle, and they're a 1/2 inch deep. So go ahead, let's get started with this. Now, it's very important to make sure you plant them at the right depth because they'll struggle if you plant them too deep, or if you plant them too shallow, they'll just have a big chance of actually just drying out and not germinating correctly. Some of these manufacturers like Hoss Tools, I love their seeds because a lot of times they give you these little name badges, and it's just really nice and special. And I really like that. So, but usually when I'm planting the seeds, let's take a look at these are the kale seeds here. They're nice little round seeds. So sometimes they're kind of hard to handle, especially if you have bigger hands. But I basically just take a little chopstick or like a wooden skewer, and I'm just making a hole about a 1/4 inch deep in each one of these cells, and I'm going to drop in 2 seeds. And the reason why I do 2 seeds is just in case one fails to germinate, I have that backup seed in there. Some of my seeds that are really expensive, like my tomato seeds, I'll only put one because some of the germination rates are in the 90 percentile. So I'm not going to really, I don't, the seeds are too expensive, honestly, to waste. But the kale, you get like a seed package. There's quite a few in each one of those packets. So I'm going to put 2 in there. I'm planting a lot of kale this year because that's something my chickens really like to eat. It's very healthy for them. And they just really go crazy over it. And also the lettuce too is something that everybody really enjoys in their salad or in wraps. And the chickens actually like that too. So I got to always think of them when I'm growing a lot of these vegetables. As you see the lettuce seeds here, they're really small, and you could actually buy them pelleted. Pelleted means they put like a little coating of clay on them, so they're a lot easier to handle, and you could actually see where you're planting them. The pelleted seeds are more expensive when you purchase them. I think they're still worth it. But anyway, after you put them in, I just kind of just cover it real quick with my finger, and that's it. The lettuce is done, and then I always apply perlite to all my seeds that I start. And perlite is a little different than vermiculite. I always put the perlite on the top because what it does, it keeps the top of the soil very aerated, and that's what perlite's supposed to do. Vermiculite actually retains water, so that's why a lot of times I put it in the soil because it keeps the soil nice and moist. So last up, we have our little special container that's from Taco Tuesday, and we're going to do the spinach, which has to be a 1/2 inch deep. And I'm just going to pop a couple holes here. And the nice thing about this container, it actually has a built-in humidity dome, which is pretty neat. So, but if you see here, the spinach seeds are bigger, so they're easier to handle. And I do put 2 in each hole, just like I do with the kale. So once I'm done with that, I'm just going to basically just take my finger, just cover up the hole, and then I'm not going to add soil because there's plenty of soil. I'm going to top it off with some perlite, to keep that aeration at the top. keep the moisture down below. Then I'm going to bring it over to the sink. And what I do is just put on a really light spray and just kind of just moisten the top. I do that with all my seeds. All right, so this section is about humidity domes, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they leave them on too long. And honestly, the second you see green, they need to come off. Even like this one here, I use plastic wrap because I don't have a humidity dome for that one. This is that to-go container, kind of has its own built-in humidity dome, little portholes here. But leaving them on too long, honestly, what that does, it traps moisture and it will create fungus issues. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and it will rot out your plants and it just doesn't do any good. So after they sprout, they need that airflow, not that greenhouse effect anymore. So that's one of the biggest mistakes you want to make sure you don't do. The minute you see them sprout, take the humidity domes off. Very, very important. So this next part is very important if you're going to grow some warm season crops like peppers, tomatoes. They need heat. So heat mats are very crucial to speed things up. I mean, you could still germinate your seeds, but it might take longer. But the heat mats really help keep the soil temperatures nice and warm. And what you want to do is when you see them germinate, and they start sprouting, you want to turn the heat off, just like you do with the humidity domes. This is a 10 by 20 size that will fit a 10 by 20 tray, and they're ran by a thermostat. This is a little thermostat I got from Johnny's right here. I don't have it on right now, but you can set the temperature. Say you want to set to 80 or 85 degrees. I do have another heating mat. This one's 4 foot long, and that will actually do all that whole rack right there. So these are very, very much needed. So if you're going to be growing some nice pepper plants, tomatoes, those things need some little help with the extra heat. So, but the key thing is, another mistake people make is they leave them on too long. The minute they germinate, you see them sprout, the heat comes off. All right, so now lighting. This is a huge thing that's very important to your seedlings. So, I mean, a lot of people always say, my seedlings got really tall and they're really skinny, and eventually they fell over. And that's always a lighting issue almost every single time. So, your grow lights should only be a few inches from the top of your seedlings. And that what that does, it just gives it a full lighting. Remember, like a strong light will equal a strong structure, and if you have the lights too high, that's going to be like a weak light, and that's going to make your stems weak because they're going to have to stretch so high to get to them. So as they grow, I can literally just raise these lights up. But look at this. This is so perfect. They're getting a nice full ray, and these adjusters make it so much easier. And the lights themselves are just regular shop lights. And I've been doing this for years. It's nothing complicated. Some people make it very complicated, but honestly, you don't need to make it complicated. And they're all daisy chained together, one plugs into the other. So it's very easy. And that's it. I could adjust them, bring them up on both sides. I put them on both lights. So, it makes it really easy, and I could have full access to whatever I want to do. That's it. So we covered a couple big mistakes that gardeners make. One being your humidity dome is on too long, and another one is having your lights at the wrong height. But the biggest mistake is timing. People just start too early or start too late. Everything works off of your last frost date. You got to go to a website like this one, garden.org, and find out what your last frost date is. Once you find that out, you could count backwards based on how many weeks the plant needs before transplant. This one decision will make your process so much smoother. This has so much information on this website. Honestly, starting your seeds indoors really isn't complicated. Once you understand how timing works, lighting works, and moisture control, it all starts to make sense. After you do the one season, the next year honestly feels so much easier. So that's how you build your confidence, one season at a time. I really enjoyed making this video for you guys, especially this time of year. So stick around, we're just getting started.